Hi. First of all, very happy to see you here. And I would like you to go to, because I want to make it a bit more interactive, so go to menti.com and please type in the code you see there, 21520371, because this will make things just a bit more fun. So if you haven't yet, I'll just give you one more second or a couple of more to actually figure it out. Go to menti.com and then type in the code. So, to make sure that you're there and that you know, that I know that you're there, please answer the first question, because those will be the only ones I'll be asking. Do you like leading, tedious, and/or rhetorical questions? I will have them a lot today. Awesome. I can see there's enough of you. If you would like to share your insights about this also, please join. So today I want to talk to you about how we basically went from a very small team in BNP Paribas in a huge corporation to a very strategic one that's called the UX Center of Expertise. We're kind of, let's say, an internal agency for the entire bank. So there's a couple of things I will tell you. I don't know which of them will be applicable, but let's start. So this is a single case study. Single case study, as you can see. We went from a very small team to this strategic agency, internal agency, and now we're building a very huge UX community in the bank. So I'm pretty sure that will grow to more than 40 people next year, doubling the size we have right now of the entire UX community in the bank. And we're really being noticed in the entire group of BNP Paribas, which is pretty great because there's a lot of other banks and financial institutions within the group. So we're pretty proud of ourselves. But like I said, this is just a single case study. But this single case study has a very universal formula that I think that every organization can apply to themselves pretty much off the bat. And it's this: start small, then do stuff, and then becoming the strategic UX center of expertise that ranks as one of the most mature UX teams in the entire BNP Paribas group. And now we are almost doubling our size, building a 40+ person UX community in BNP Paribas. And this is something that I really want to underline here during my talk, that there is no single approach and no single way to actually do what we did. And each and every organization will be very different. You will have completely different set of environmental things when it comes to the entire company, priorities. For example, we started small, but with great potential, because we started as a 2-person team, but within the digital transformation of the entire bank. And when we started, nobody had any idea what to do with us. We were basically tasked as 2 people to do design thinking. And that's it. So we had to figure out how to navigate in the entire organization. We got like a workshop that there was like a room under the stairs that basically all the furniture went to die, and they moved out all of the furniture and gave it to us. And we turned it into a pretty cool workshop. Also, like, the carpets there were, I think, kind of magic. They were so old that, we asked people to clean them a lot, but there was like this miasma, just, like bad air from the Middle Ages just floating next to the floor, and there was nothing to do with it. This was just basically like a shed below the stairs. But this was the place where we started, and this was the place where we managed to kind of build ourselves from the ground up. And like I said, we started with huge potential, right? But the potential could go in a lot of different directions. And for example, this is something I'll talk about later. Then we were paired with the teams that were doing agile, that were doing data science, that were doing lean management, lean processes. So we were kind of able to leverage the cooperation of those teams. And I know that your circumstances might be completely different in your organizations. So some general thoughts that will basically guide the entire thing I'll be talking about. First of all, I know don't scream at me, but it's kind of easy to do good UX and product design if you're in a big project. If there's a project that has 10 or 20 million of general budgets, right, for architecture, for development, for anything, it's kind of easy to get UX designers involved in there, especially if you're working with huge vendors, right, with huge companies that provide IT services to other big corporations. It's pretty easy to make sure that they also have UX designers, that there's a process to follow. Like if you work with very big vendors, they always have something. So it's pretty easy compared to the other stuff. Because most of the projects, most of the processes, most of the people working, even in big corporations, they don't have those huge budgets, but they still do need good UX because it's very easy, once again, relatively, to create a modern front-end app that has great UX, wins prizes. You can upload it to Dribble, and everybody is super happy. But the back-end of the entire thing is kind of more difficult. For example, in BNP Paribas, we built Go Online a couple of years ago. It wasn't my team; it was another great team. And Go Online basically started as a super modern app. But there was a lot of things that had to follow it for it to be one that's really compatible with others. Because BNP Paribas was after a couple of acquisitions. When we started there, it was still BGŻ, so the public bank of the agricultural public bank. So you can kind of figure out that it wasn't the most modern organization ever. Then there was another merger, and there were many mergers before. So just making sure that the backend of a really great app on the front works took time. So for example, there's a lot of things that we had very early, like I love the fact that you can buy tickets and pay for parking through the app directly from your account. But for example, direct BLIK payments, we introduced them a couple of months ago. So you can see that there's a huge backlog of things that have to be done way below the front end. And I know it's pretty obvious, but this is the thing I want to underline, that this is where there's the difference between good product design and the general UX maturity of the entire organization. Because if you have a huge, complex organization like ours, you can't just have this one big product, even if it has the biggest budget, in the history of big budgets. You can't have it, pull the entire organization towards higher UX maturity and good products and good experiences overall. Because they're limited, there's other things, there's other priorities, and it's very, very hard to just go on those big budget things. And this is what I want to focus on. And in the next part, I'll show just a couple of examples what we did in the bank and how we used it to leverage ourselves, build the team, improve our status in the organization, and make sure that we grew to the point that we are at right now. So, one more thing. And in development, you can write good code, but you still need the DevOps, right? Every company has to have a DevOps. Every company has to have the environment in which developers can actually do their work. And it should work, and it's the same for design. You can do the best design ever, but if you don't have the tools, the environment, the people around, the openness of the organization to actually listen to you, then you won't actually do that much. You'll just create a lot of great mock-ups. You'll just create a lot of great stuff that probably won't be implemented, or will just get rolled down, rolled back, switched to completely another direction somewhere along the way. So this is also be a couple of things I want to say about how to make the UX design, the entire UX design approach shine in an organization. So, do you feel that you are in a position to deal with such large-scale issues in whatever you are right now in your company, in your work? Really? Well, wait a second. Okay. If there's too much shirt, it doesn't mess up the other slides, so it's still way better than I thought. But yeah, like most people are way out of the scope of designers, right? And of course, maybe it depends on the size of the company. For example, an agency will probably have a way different approach than a huge corporation. And it's okay. It's fine because it was also out of our scope. And I don't want to say that, if we did it, then of course you all can do it, right? It's not this kind of talk. I just want to share with you the things that we did right and we did wrong. So I'll give you some examples. The first thing is, oh yeah, I also have one more question. When you're approaching new projects, you know how to assess what work will have the most impact, or it's hard for you to tell if where the impact is and you would like to follow the process you already know? Damn, the answers are completely different than I thought. That's weird. Anyway, but that's actually really good, because this is the first good step for you to know how to actually push the organization in a good direction. So this is the first thing we did like 5 years ago, maybe. It doesn't really look that great. It's an app for business trips. It's a very small thing. You book a train, you book a flight, you book a hotel, you then get your money back or whatever. It's a super easy thing, and also you can see that it's not the prettiest ever. But this was the first app we did, and the old process was super difficult, cumbersome, took a lot of time. It was basically terrible. We hated it. Everybody hated it. It took like thousands of man days every year for people to be able to restitute their business trips. But our solution wasn't really that impressive. We basically knew what had to be done like in 5 minutes, one of the super simple apps. But we needed to get some lessons learned about the organization, and the app itself was super basic, but what we did was show that there's the entire process. We had way more workshops than we should have, but then again, we were able to engage people, and they learned about us, and they knew that there are those cool new people who do cool new stuff. So our main goal here wasn't to just design the app. This was super easy. But actually show that we also bring something else to the organization. This was the first thing we did. It was like maybe 2 or 3 months after they actually hired us. So I give you this as an example that you can do something that's it was kind of overkill, to be honest. It was super easy. But then again, showing the process for the first time, and then having an example for people to show that, listen, we were able to do this, and because of that, we were able to create an app that, for example, saved 1,000 man days of work that just went into the restitutions in the old systems. And how do you feel about the system that uses 4 completely different fonts at once, sometimes on one screen? You see what I did there? It's a funny one. Yeah, and I completely agree with you. So I want to talk about one of the biggest projects we actually did, which was the front-end tool for the branches. So if you go into a branch of BNP Paribas or call the contact center, then you will talk to a person who uses this front desk tool that I will show you. And as you can see, it's a bit of a cluster something. It's not the, let's say, you probably see a lot of things that should be improved here. But then again, it's enough. For example, like I think 3 weeks ago, we talked to a person that's responsible for training new employees in the bank who go to the branches. And she said that she loves it, and it's the most usable system in the entire bank. So this was really, let's say, a surprise for me, because when I look at it, I kind of don't feel really good about showing this to you. But then again, people like it, because it's very useful, and what we did with it and what we focused on is we started to standardize the look and feel of all of the bank apps. We knew that this will be the biggest one, used by thousands of employees, so we had to use it to show people how we want to design the apps further on. So we also tried to future-proof the design because it was super complicated. This isn't one app. This is like 4 or 5 apps glued together from different systems and some microfronts. There's some very weird stuff going on there. And we had to deal with it, and we had to future-proof it so that, for example, if somebody does another app, that they will know which components to use. Like, for example, that there's a way to actually filter big categories in an easy way that's used in another app. This is generally the way that we do lists. So the future-proofing was super, super important, and this is when we started building our design system and showing people that, look, here are just, let's say, the mock-ups and the components, but also we started to ask developers to actually give us some code. And of course, it took It took years, but this is the point at which it started. And like I said, the designs were, they're okay. I mean, it could be better, it could be worse. But the thing had a huge effect on the entire organization because it was a central system. And also, this is when we started to get questions from other parts of the banks. Could you, for example, make for me a system that will look kind of like this one, because I like it and people like it. So this was for us a way to push ourselves further, let's say, to the heart of the entire organization. A new thing. Do you know what an RFP is? Yeah, finally. Awesome. Sorry about the sound, it's just how it works. So, this is the system that we are using for claims. If something goes wrong, you call us, you tell us what went wrong. This is the system that your claim will be processed in. As you can see, pretty basic, normal, a lot of usability issues, but it works, and people are really happy with it. But the thing why it's important, because we were able to recognize a pretty cool opportunity. Supporting a product before they even went to look for companies to build it. An RFP is a request for proposals. It's a procurement thing. The people that buy things from the market send an RFP to companies. The companies that say we'll do it for 500, for 600, for 700, and they generally give you the idea how much it will cost and what will it be. And we found this product before they sent an RFP, and we told them, listen, we'll do it for free, we'll just, help you to create the mock-ups, the processes, to work with stakeholders, to workshop your product, so then when you go to the market, you'll have way better proposals. What you'll get from the companies that will come over will be just perfect. And it worked. And it really made people like us. Everyone was happy. Procurement was super happy. They had great materials to talk to negotiate. The people who were dealing with processes were super happy. And business was sure it's the right direction, but also we made some friends in procurement because they knew then that if they want to have a simpler process buying complex stuff, they can just call us, we'll workshop it, we'll draw it for them, and then they can go to the market with way better materials than they ever had. So this was a really cool, and this is my transition to another part of the talk, that knowing how the organization works will really help you. Learning about the nooks and crannies, about how the gears turn, is very, very useful for you as designers, because then you can find a place where you'll be needed and you'll have an impact on the organization. You have to understand the organization to actually be able to grow in it. And this is the role of UX managers, leaders, or stewards even. And this is very important. They don't have to be actual managers. It's not a thing of hierarchy. It's just a thing of being able to have initiative and put yourself in positions where it's easy for you to show the value of your work. So, you need to understand your environment in the best way you actually can. Because the product development in a corporation, they have a different lifespan than designer. Some time ago, we were buying some software, whatever, a very, let's say, technical thing. And one of my colleagues called me and said, listen, I'm filling up a form. Who made it? And we opened it and was like, what the fuck is this? Because it was our design system. It was everything we did. And then you kind of remembered, oh, yeah, there was we had a person join us a couple of years ago. It was for, I think, an internship or a junior position, a baby UX. And she designed the form a couple of years before, and we kind of forgot about it because it was a small thing. And she advanced through the ranks. She was really awesome, a great person to work with. She went to another company. She leads a way better life right now. And suddenly, the designs she made a couple of years ago, they start to surface back. And we see them, and they work. And other people call us and say, hey, I saw that form, for IT security. We want a very similar one. Can you do it for us? And we're like, yeah, or not, maybe. And I'll tell you why in a second. But you got to understand that the life cycle of a corporation is completely different. Sometimes you do something and you see it back in 3 years, or you don't see it back because you already left the company 2 years before, right? But it still lives somewhere, like somebody had it. We even lost it because it was on a different account that we have right now. We actually lost it. We don't have the source files, anything. It's completely forgotten. It's dead. But it's not really, because actually now it works. So this is a completely different thing that you usually see, that the mockups are there and the product isn't. Here's the other way around. And what we also do, and what really works well, is scouting for new topics to cover. Because very often people don't even know that you're there, and sometimes even if they do, that they don't know that they need you. So for example, we hang out with IT architects a lot. They're really cool, and they're usually the first people to know about anything that is IT, because even in the formal process of starting a product or a project, everybody has to go through IT architects. So sometimes they know things like a year before it even starts. So we really like to hang out with them because they very often lead us to very cool things. And we have I have a very cool example here, because there's a very, very big program in the bank to, let's say, modernize parts of the architecture, like the most basic things in the bank. And we have a very good relationship with the architects. And they said, well, could somebody from your team actually join us? Because we have no idea how this will work out. And you can just support us, help us, workshop with us. Generally, be there, because they know we're kind of useful. And because of that, we were able to find a couple of completely new topics that will require us to probably get like 3 or 4 more people next year, because they started doing stuff this year. We went there, we workshopped, we said, okay, listen, this system actually, it would kind of need some UX design because, for example, it's a very complex thing that goes through 5 or 7 different systems. In another place, we see that that you're looking for a vendor to actually create the system that you're building, so maybe we'll help you with an RFP. So this kind of scouting is very, very useful for us to grow, because this is how we find in the organization things that we can do, and sometimes explain to the product owners, tribe leaders, whoever, that they actually can use us, right, or can use our skills. So we basically have a policy that everybody can come over if they need half an hour to talk, and we'll just consult them, it's fine. And we'll workshop with anyone. If anybody needs a workshop, 2 or 3 hours, I'll always free you. Always get 2 or 3 hours with us. The first one is free always. And this allows us to really know the entire organization, but also connect the dots, right? Because as UX designers, we're very often in the middle of very weird things that people don't usually talk to each other. We're doing a form to sell some kind of installment plan, but this goes through another system and through another system and through another system, and we can contact those people with each other and connect them so that they create better products and better experiences, and they wouldn't do it by themselves, because you know how it works, how corporations work. So very often we're in a unique position, and this position really allows us to grow. And like I said, this is one of the main things I want to focus on, how we actually build a huge, huge center of people who are good at UX. So usually you'll be surprised what the organization will value your work for. For example, because you're good at facilitating a workshop, they'll just ask you to come over when they have a problem and help them figure something out. Sometimes you provide them with, I remember it took us 2 hours. We did the most terrible mock-ups of a part of a procurement process possible, because they were wrong on possibly every level, but the people we worked with, they were really happy about it, because this actually was the first time that somebody drew anything for them, and they were able to show it to the vendors that this is kind of the thing that we like. So you never know what will actually influence other people in your organization and be useful for them. So, have you ever heard that your ideas and what you're proposing to do is great, but there's just not the budget for it? What's happening? Doesn't work? Oh, crap. How about now? Shit. Wait. Yes. Okay. So, of course you heard this. And of course, this is one of the most common things that the most common things you hear. But the question is, do you know how to deal with it? Do you know when budgets are divided in your organization? Great. So this is actually really good. So some of you know, some of you don't. For example, I think for us, it's just ended right now. I hope I sent all the files I had to. So, but this is the thing. Very often we hear that there's not the budget, but we're not active, or it's very hard to be active in actually making sure that the budget is there. And this is, for example, how we failed 2 years ago. I just didn't know. I just didn't know how to apply and to whom to apply. And then throughout the entire year 2020, everybody was asking for our help. And I was like, but I can't help you. You don't have the money. And they were like, but we didn't know we have to have the money. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So, and for example, this is why like 2020 was super hard for us. But right now, for example, next year's, we learned when to insert ourselves. So for example, like just before the vacation, we were very active in trying to find products and kind of help them workshop, figure out what they want to do. So we can, for example, tell them, look, it looks like you need like 2 designers for half a year, and then plan the entire next year. So, another thing, if asked, would you know how UX is financed in your organization? Would you be able to help a product owner actually figure out what kind of budgets they have to have? And this is also something super important from my perspective, that very often you, for example, hear a product, you hear a product owner who says that, for example, they have some type of budget, let's say, cost group G something that's for external consulting and nothing else. And another product owner has like a CapEx other costs budget, and somebody else has something else. And on a couple of occasions, I was kind of able, to connect those people to be able to provide the services, because none of them, every one of them had some money, but none of them had the money they actually need for the things they actually needed from us. So we were able to help them to create. I talked to finance, I had all those presentations, when can you use which kind of budgets for UX work, and this actually allowed us to get at least 2 or 3 more people last year for our team, just because I kind of figured out how the accounting works. And of course, it'll work different for your organizations. But still, it's something to really focus on, because like I said, from my perspective, we got 2 or 3 more people just because of, let's say, being more knowledgeable about how budgeting works. So, if you want to grow, you have to learn a bit about the financial side in your organization. It will always be a bit different. But this is something that you kind of have to figure out by yourself, because if you're, again, proactive and you can support others with it, you'll probably do better, right? I talk a lot about budgets, but that's what it's about, right? You have to have the money to hire the people to do the work. And I know that you probably need very little of that in your everyday work, right? I also I focus on it because that's my job right now. I haven't designed anything in years. Anyway, but like in your everyday job, you probably won't need it. And it's fine, because this is technical stuff, this is managerial stuff, right? This isn't stuff you actually need as UX designers. In no way do I want to suggest even that, making sure that design is really perfect, pixel perfect, the process is perfect, that's bad. No, it's needed. You have to have professionals that can actually do the job. But what I'm talking about here is trying to build the environment. And no matter how good you are, if there's no environment for you to work, you won't be able to do the work. So in no way am I trying to say that this is more important. It's not. It's just something that has to be taken care of. And, but then again, UX leadership isn't just for managers, it's for everybody. And this is how also our team works. There's a lot of initiative. Everybody has a lot of space to actually pursue the ideas they have to make things work better. I have no idea what's happening in a product that, let's say, 5 people from my team are, let's say the relationship between the product owners and others. They know better. So I completely trust that the people who are working as UX designers know how to, push us in the right direction and find new avenues to actually work better. And it really, really works. And the last part of my talk, which skills do you feel are unique to our industry, right? Let's say the broad UX industry, the reason why we're here. so that you feel that this is basically the thing that only we can do. Yeah, I have no opinion about this, by the way. But that's actually really interesting that so many people, for example, say that pick the moderating workshops as the thing that's unique for us, since this was something that's happening for the entire history of making business, basically, right? This is something that we actually learned from other people. There are professional moderators that are used in every area of industry, business, diplomacy, whatever. But I actually think that there's a couple of things that we are the best at, and I would probably focus more on things like UI design, because this is something that you actually have to make it work really well. Those are very, very hard skill. But for example, user research, that are companies that do like NPS studies and those general marketing studies that are really good at it. So to be quite honest, I don't really feel that there are things that are super unique for us, and I'll tell you why. Because a lot of the value, we just specialize in it. But for example, you can train analysts, product owners, and user research to make sure that they have some of it. It won't be the best thing ever, but it'll be pretty good, I guess. You can train people to do, I know, service design, customer journeys, all kinds of stuff like this. 3 more minutes, I'll figure it out, I'll do it. So you can train them to do this, and they'll be pretty okay with it. So for example, this is a garden I built. It's terrible in general, but I like it and it's enough for me. And this is the thing that we kind of learned, that user maturity cannot be built just by user experience design experts. We have to train a lot of people. We, for example, and it's not even because, okay, so it's not mainly, but for example, it's kind of silly for us, like user experience designers with years of experience, to, for example, make 17 versions of the same form that has 12 fields because an analyst wrote a ticket in Jira and we have to go through it. It's kind of better to actually buy the software, give the MacBook, and ask the analyst to do it herself. And we actually have a couple of examples like this. We just basically gave our stuff to the analyst, we trained them a bit, and the work is just better. They work better, they work faster, they don't take very precious time. You know how expensive for IT services are for companies, so we basically save money, save time, and make the entire process way more efficient. So sometimes I feel you just gotta let go to build the UX maturity of the organization. And a lot of our work is pretty universal. And of course, you might disagree with me as we've seen on the slide before, but my experience is that it really is. That you can teach people to do the basic stuff very quickly, and they're really good at it, and they really, really like it. For example, we found out that it's way more efficient for us to use external research companies than actually have researchers in our team, because there are other research teams in the bank. And we found out that in our team, the concrete one that I handle, we don't really need researchers because we have such good support from our colleagues in other departments that they'll figure it out. We just prepare briefs, we help them, we build mock-ups for them if they want to do user testing, but we don't really have to do it anymore because the organization itself has matured enough for other teams to be able to do it. And this is very important because then again, this is something that goes against maybe our interests here, because if we teach others to do the stuff we do, then what are we here for? But this is, again, the direction I think this is heading, because a lot of companies I feel that are doing this, that they see that there's a lot of basic stuff in UX that actually can be done with existing people. And it's really good to take note of this, because like I said, it might be a bit dangerous for us, and I completely agree that it works this way. But for example, we will be able to grow our UX community in the bank more than twice next year, because we will train a lot of analysts, product owners, people like this, so they will also be pretty efficient at UX design. So the entire UX maturity of the organization grows. And like I said, I know this might kick us in the ass along the way, but this is just how it's what's most beneficial for the organization, and I feel this is the direction they will go. And key takeaway from the entire thing, sorry about being too long, it's the second step from the universal formula. So, and that's the key to success. And I hope that some of the things I told you might kind of inspire you or show you some ways to grow in your organization, but there's just no way to do it. I mean, you just got to figure it out, and that's it. And that's the key takeaway, and I hope that something I said here might be helpful for you, but like I said, I have no idea. And that's it, thanks. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Proszę. Jakub Danecki. Rozglądam się po sali, już widzę ręce w górze.
Okay,
także
I can see many questions from the audience.
Dobra, pierwsze pytanie.
Okay, so the first
in Polish
question.
or in English? Which do you prefer?
I don't care.
I'm here.
Oh, hi, yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you, because in my company we have a similar problem right now, because our maturity is quite low. That's a problem. And we have a team of 10 people. We work in e-commerce, but very often I see things that we could make better, that we could improve. But I see how much effort it will require from us, and I'm afraid of being burnt out. And how to do it, you know, how to increase the maturity of the organization without getting burnt out yourself, because I think it's really difficult. Do you have any advice for that?
No, that's a great question. If you figure it out, just tell me. No, but seriously, this is super important, and I have really no idea, because there were times where I was like really with my resignation coming to the office, and there were times where I was really happy or actually had nothing to do. So I don't feel this is. You might find ways to, with your initiative, to actually maybe lower the workload you have. Sometimes it will grow. I don't have any answer. I survived the worst and I survived the best, and yeah, sorry.
All right, thanks.
Dalej szukam rąk, tutaj z tyłu Anastazja za tobą.
Okay,
tak
we
jest,
keep
do tyłu i po lewej.
getting questions. Okay.
I forgot a selfie, sorry. It's important, you do it the
Hello,
same.
Kuba. Thank you for a great presentation. You were talking about, incorporating analysts and other people from teams in the UX process, and I think that's a great idea for large-scale processes as yours. But when do you feel is the best time for UX team as an experts to step in and oversee their work?
Yeah, this quality assurance is super important, and we have a couple of ideas how to do it. For example, the idea is that when we give our toys to others, they can just play with them, they cannot change them. So we have the design system, we have some already examples made, and the general rule is that as long, you need a list that has like 5 columns. If there's one, take it, you're fine. If there's something has to be created because the current thing does not fit your needs, then an expert is needed to actually help you with it so that we don't build bad standards. So this is the general idea and the general approach we have to make sure that the quality is actually pretty high and it's consistent. And this actually is, I think, pretty cool for us, especially, let's say, for more senior designers, that we move from the very basic, mundane stuff to the things that actually, require some pizzazz, or some general, more, let's say, influence of the actual UX expert on this. So I don't know whether it answers questions, but yeah, it's basically the idea we have is that if you're playing with the toys, it's fine. If you want to change the toys, you have to do it with us.
Rozbestwiłeś trochę ludzi w internecie, także zadam parę pytań z internetu, z Slido.
Okay, here are questions from Slido. The first question is from Julia.
How to keep the sanity when delegating UX-related tasks to other non-UX teams?
Oh yeah, this is super important. And since this is a UX conference, I can tell you that it always depends. Because there is no, we see that there is no rule, because some teams use very different types of project management. Some have very huge JIRAs, with every task being divided into 1,000 subtasks. Some teams just write each other like, huge emails that nobody reads. So from my perspective, there is no rule rule, but you have to figure it out with your team. So for example, we have a great support from our colleagues from the Agile Center that help us, make the process work smooth, because sometimes some teams need this huge structure to work, and some teams are fine with everyday calls. So not to answer the question at all, it always depends, but there are things you can do, and it's always trying to have some experience how do you work with the team, and this is something we do, like for a couple of weeks, just let things roll, right? See how they work with some good practices we have, and we share those good practices. For example, we have this huge project that 5 people from our team work on, and it has great good practices on how to manage the work of analysts, developers, UX designers, researchers sometimes, but we haven't done the research in some time there. Anyway, and we share that, for example, listen, this is how we do it in this big project. But another one, we share a different experience. For example, in smaller ones, you just basically wait a week, we'll give you the mock-up, and then we'll have a workshop. So we basically have a list of good practices for different types of projects that we experienced along the years, and we just share them with the new people we work with and try to figure out whether it works or whether we have to start something completely different. So there is no rule. The only rule is, the second rule from the slide.
Okej, teraz pytanie od Dawida. Jak długo trwał wzrost dwóch osób do ponad 40?
How long did you grow from 2 to over 40 people, and how did you manage to convince the decision makers to actually build such
right
an
now
organization?
Our team itself is 13 people. All of the UX professionals that we have in the company is around 20, and there's a couple of, let's say, people in the UX guild and UX community that we're building. So right now we're, let's say, at around, 13 of us, up to 20 of the others, and a couple of more. So right now we're at around, let's say, 20, to make sure that I'm not exaggerating. And it took us 5 years, but basically we reached 13 to 15. We started in 2017. In 2020, we had more than 10. So basically, it was just 3 years. And how we managed to do this? First of all, it was clever looking for budgets. Because some of the people we have, on payroll, some of the people are contractors from our vendors, some of the people are tightly integrated with our work, some of the people we basically have very little in common. And the thing is that we basically try to find projects that had the budget, then hire contractors to those projects or people on our own payroll. And this is the thing I told before, that, for example, we found a way to get 3 more people because there was some cool thing with the budget we could do. So basically, this is how we did it. We found the product owners with the budget. We were able to tell them what kind of value we will bring to them, and then hire the people. And of course, there's a higher level, because there's also a negotiated basic level of UX capacity we have to have. And this is something that I negotiated basically, with my boss, with the board, and the general budgeting stuff. So like I said, there are 2 things. Show your value and make sure that you can show that there's a basic UX capacity you just have to have, because if it's not there, it's just attritions, right? The knowledge attritions, the know-how falls down. And then look for projects that actually require more people and hire them.
Szanowni Państwo, wielkie brawa, Kuba Danecki.